is Annapolis, and these are the midshipmen who make up the brigade of the United States Naval Academy. These are their stories, full of their laughter, their heartache, their tragedies and triumphs. The stories of the men of Annapolis.
Hey, Dusty, don't touch. All right, Sty, what have you rigged up now and why?
You'll appreciate this feature around Rutley tomorrow morning. You'll just lie in your rack and wait until the joint warms up. You know, it's so simple, I don't know why I never thought of it before. Look, you see that pencil? It won't write. Why? Because I took the lead out of it and put in an antenna. Here's a transmitter.
Sty, do me a favor. Please close the window. Thanks. Sty, it's freezing in here. Please.
Here's the receiver. It's a 27.255 MC job with a 25K variable potentiometer. The first stage draws around 0.3 of a milliampere, but the second stage idles at 0.
Of course, why not?
So when it gets a signal, it'll jump around 1.8 MA. And this shoots a juice to the 3 p.m. circle. So they open, they shut.
That's fine, Sty, that's fine.
Did you mail your letter?
Yeah. Now, get dressed, will you? Breakfast time is coming up fast.
Dusty? What we need is an automatic sound-off device.
A what?
An automatic sound-off device. See, every time gold braid passes through here, we have to sound off. If I could put something here in the door jamb, and it could trigger off a tape recording, and it could sound off for us.
What for, Sty?
Huh?
What for?
Well, the other evening, Judd Magruder came over here, and I was thinking about something else, and he said, sound off, and I had to stop everything and think about that. Now, that's a terrible waste of time.
Say, did you do what Judd Magruder told you to?
Did he tell me to do something?
He told you to be able to name and date all the monuments on the Academy grounds by breakfast this a.m.
I forgot.
Oh,
Why
Magruder...
does he want to know about the monuments, I wonder?
He doesn't. He wants you to know.
Well, why me?
Because you're a genius.
No, I'm not, Dusty. I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah, sure.
Sure.
Mr. Styron?
Yes, Mr. Magruder?
Name and date the monuments on the Academy grounds.
Well, sir, there's to come, sir. That's a statue of an old Indian chief of the same name. He was a Shawnee. Did you know that, Mr. Magruder? Well, he was a pure-blooded, honest-to-goodness Shawnee Indian. Good old Joe, they tell me.
For your information, Mr. Styron, he was a Delaware chief.
Oh, Delaware chief.
The date, Mr. Styron?
Well, sir, that's a problem.
The date, Mr. Styron.
Well, as I was saying before, that's quite a problem. There are two factions, two schools of thought on that.
There's only one date on the statue, Mr. Styron. What is it?
I'll run and see, sir.
Sit still. In other words, you don't know.
I'm afraid that's correct, sir.
I tell this plebe to do something. I give him an order, and what does he do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I know, Jed, but it would take a week to learn all the monuments. Look, I don't know where some of them are, and I've been here 4 years. He only gave him 12 hours.
But he didn't learn any of them.
Give him another chance.
Okay. But I don't see how that can help make a naval officer out of him. Now, you disobeyed an order, didn't you, Mr. Styron?
It could be interpreted that way, yes, sir.
That's the way I interpret it. Now, what do you suppose we should do?
Well, I should be reprimanded, sir.
Like, say, learning the articles from the Uniform Code of Military Justice?
Yes, sir.
All of them?
Yes, sir.
There are over 100, you know.
Oh. Well, I'll have to know them sometime, won't I, sir?
That's right.
Suppose we start with 100.
By when?
Well, I guess you'll be busy with your exam tomorrow and all, so suppose we say Monday at evening meal.
That'll be just fine, Mr. Styron.
Sty, Monday a week. Give yourself a week, 2 weeks if you can.
Couldn't do it any earlier, I suppose, Mr. Styron.
I don't see why not, sir.
Well, that's the deal. Then you will recite 100 articles of the Uniform Code tomorrow at evening meal.
Yes, sir.
Now, you have volunteered for this duty. I expect that you will carry it out.
Yes, sir. Dusty? Dusty, come here.
Let's go, Sty.
Come here. What we need is a telephone in our room.
In our room?
If we could latch on to the top part of a pay telephone, we could drop the coins through so that the bells will ring all right, and we could catch the coins so it wouldn't cost anything. We could call anywhere in the world if we could just attach a phone to the cable that runs right above our room.
Sty, attention, here
We
comes
gotta charge people who want to use the phone now. 25 cents for plebes and 50 cents for upperclassmen.
Good afternoon, Commander.
For commanders, we gotta charge $1.
Sty.
At ease, gentlemen. I'm Commander Adams.
Midshipman Rhodes and Styron, 4th class, sir.
I suspect you're Mr. Styron.
Yes, sir.
I've heard about you. You designed that radio-controlled plane, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
Nice job. But I don't advise tinkering with the telephone system, even at $1 for commanders. Look, you've heard about the plebe sponsor program the Academy has set up, I suppose.
Yes, sir. An officer sort of takes a plebe under his wing, so to speak.
That's the general idea. You've been assigned to me by the committee.
I have, sir?
Of course, the plebe doesn't have to accept sponsorship if he's too busy with academics or sports. No hard feelings on either side, you understand?
But it is a chance to get outside of the walls, isn't it, sir?
Sure. Have you ever seen a cow?
A cow? Well, I'm from New York City, sir, but I do believe they have cows in other states.
We have a lot of cows right here. I'm officer in charge of the Academy's dairy farm. We have some cows.
Do cows bite, sir?
Not often. But a cow is one of the few animals that can kick you hard from any direction. How would you like to come out to the farm and inspect a cow in person?
Close up, sir?
Well, outside of kicking range. If you can get away at 10 a.m. tomorrow, I can get you excused from the noon meal. Appeal to you?
I'll be ready at 10, sir.
Okay. 10 a.m. sharp, main gate. Carry on, gentlemen.
What's the matter with you? You can't be ready at 10 in the morning.
Why not?
Because you've got the toughest math exam of the year starting at 9. That's in the first place, why not?
Well, if I can get finished with it in 30 minutes, it'll be all right.
30 minutes? Sty, this is the big one. This is the civilian maker. It's a 3-hour exam.
But if I can get finished with it in 30 minutes,
You can't even write it down in under an hour and a half. You better call off that trip right now.
I don't want to.
And in the second place, what about those 100 regulations that you volunteered to learn for Jed Magruder by tomorrow's evening meal? You can't learn them all, obviously, but you should at least try to learn 1 or 2 of them.
Don't worry, I'll solve that problem tonight. I'll learn them all.
Di, what are you thinking of? What are you thinking of?
Cows? Do cows have teeth? Any person subject to this code who willfully and wrongfully hazards or suffers to be hazarded any vessel of the armed forces shall suffer death.
Sty! Sty, you put yourself over a barrel. Now, why not give up? At evening meal, just tell Mr. Magruder you couldn't do it. Besides, the really important thing for tomorrow is his math exam. You fail this and you'll be out.
Oh, I'll worry about the math exam tomorrow. I've got to get these articles tonight. Why don't you study them, too? You're going to have to learn them sometime. I could put another earphone in.
It'll take 4 years to learn those articles.
And I've only got 8 hours to learn the first 100. Any person subject to this code who fights or promotes or is concerned in or connives at fighting a duel shall suffer death. Any member of the armed forces who before or in the presence of the enemy runs away shall suffer death.
How many of them do you know?
None, I wasn't paying any attention.
So what's been accomplished?
They're all on tape.
So?
I just got to rig this thing for continuous playback.
So?
Well, you see this? I'm just going to put this in my ear, and all night long I'll be listening to the articles.
You're not going to sleep all night?
Oh, sure, I'm going to go to sleep, but you know your brain doesn't sleep. So all night long, my brain will be listening to the articles, and by next morning, I'll know them.
Oh.
Now let's see. What else do I have to do tomorrow morning? Magruder's articles, go see the cows. There's something else.
The big exam.
Oh, yeah. What have we been having in math lately?
Oh, just a little old thing called differential equations.
Oh, yeah. Well, good night, Dusty.
Good night, Stein. Hey, where's your slide rule?
Oh, slide rule.
You gotta have it.
I guess I left it in my room.
What are you gonna do?
Search me.
Oh.
Anyone who finishes early can turn in his papers.
Oh.
Well, where's the step-by-step work on this?
Well, I didn't write it down, sir.
How did you arrive at the answers without working out the problems?
Well, I didn't have time, sir.
You'll have plenty of time. The period isn't over.
Well, you don't understand, sir. You see, I forgot to bring my slide rule, and I had to do all the steps in my head, and they just came out so fast I didn't have time to write them down, sir.
Fast.
Yes, sir.
You only used 25 minutes of the period.
22, sir.
What do you intend to do now?
Well, at 10:00, Commander Adams is going to take me to the dairy farm to see the cows.
Because you wanted to go to the dairy farm to see the cows, you were able to arrive at all these answers without working the problems.
Yes, sir.
I see. I appear to be correct. I'm going to accept your paper. I think you'd better be prepared to explain yourself a little bit more fully.
Why, sir?
I think you know why better than I do. Dismissed. Professor Marks?
Good afternoon, Mr. Randall. You wanted to see me.
Yes, indeed, sir. I've got a Lulu for you this time.
I'm Styron again.
Mhm.
What's he up to now?
Well, that's his term math exam, sir. This is all of it. One single sheet of paper. Problem numbers on one side, answers on the other. No intermediate steps, no worksheet, no clue whatever as to how you arrived at those answers.
And?
And Mr. Styron has gone off to see the cows. He told me he was quite anxious to be through early. He wanted to visit the dairy farm. Well, that's one visit that's going to cost him his career at the academy.
How is that?
Well, Professor, you know the regulations as well as I do. It isn't enough to have the right answer. The midshipman must also show the method he used. Otherwise, he gets a 0 on the problem. In this case, Styron takes a 0 for the entire exam. And since his daily grades aren't good enough to pull him through, he fails the course. You know, Professor, it takes from 10 to 15 steps to work out each one of these problems. There are two ways Styron could have those answers. Either he brought them into the examination room with him, or he copied them from someone else's paper.
Might there not be a third way, Mr. Randall?
Well, I don't know what it might be, Professor. And when Styron turned that paper in to me after using only 25 minutes of a 3-hour examination period,
He told me he'd forgotten to bring his slide rule.
Do you think the boy cheated?
Well, what do you think, Professor?
I think that for once in his life, young Styron used that remarkable brain of his at its maximum capacity.
Well, whatever young Styron did, he did not show the method he used, therefore he fails.
We'll have to take it up at the math board meeting this evening. Where can he be reached?
I would suppose he's still visiting the cows.
Call and have him report to the board meeting this evening. And will you work up some problems, similar to the ones on the exam today? Make them hard ones, Mr. Randall. Make them tough.
Yes, sir.
Careful on that fence, Kathy.
They do have teeth.
Who?
The cows, big ones. Do you think that cow would mind if I took a picture?
I think she'd be delighted.
Close up, sir?
Close as you like. But don't use your flash. It might make her bite you.
That ought to be a good picture.
Let's go watch the milking. Come on, Kathy. As soon as the cows are in their stalls and eating peacefully, we hitch on the milking equipment.
They don't mind, sir?
Mind? Mind what?
Having all of that equipment attached to them.
They don't mind.
That ought to be a good picture.
This way we can keep the milk perfectly pure, from the cow to the midshipman.
That's wonderful, and they produce steaks, too.
Not these particular cows. Steaks from one of these cows that cost you about $100. Excuse me, man, a message from the captain. Thanks, Joe. You're to report to the math board before evening meal tonight. What have you done serious enough to rate that?
I can't think of anything, sir.
Hey, where'd that daughter of mine go? Kathy! Kathy!
Daddy, look at me!
I think you're down from that fence! There's a bull in there! Kathy. Kathy? Honey? Oh, honey. Are you hurt, honey?
I hit
It does. Sit up, honey. Think you can stand? Yeah, I'll carry you. Oh. I'm not much good at speech making, Styron. Just thanks. A lot of thanks.
I'm glad it worked out all right, sir.
I don't know whether you know it, Styron. That bull could have killed all three of us.
Styron completed the examination in 25 minutes. An exam that took the #1 man in the class 1 hour and 50 minutes to complete. And the #1 man made 2 errors. Styron made none. Furthermore, Styron told me he'd forgotten to bring his slide rule. Now, gentlemen, without a slide rule, these complicated mathematical problems could not be worked by the best of mathematicians in less than, I would guess, 10 hours. I have no choice but to wonder how he arrived at those answers.
Of course, none of us can be sure of the scope of this boy's mental ability. But after talking with Commander Adams and hearing how young Styron reacted in the face of a real emergency this afternoon, I'd say he had complete control of himself and a remarkable ability to concentrate. I have no way of knowing if he would cheat, but I would say he would not.
Professor, Styron has had more than half an hour now. He hasn't worked out any of the problems you gave him. Now, would this failure indicate to you that he could not work these problems in his head?
Gentlemen, to be branded as a cheater and dismissed from the Naval Academy would have a lasting effect on a man. Therefore, we must be absolutely sure. I would like to talk to young Styron a little while.
Ask Mr. Styron to come in, please.
Wait, please wait, just a moment. If it becomes clear that young Styron is cheated, then our course of action is clear, dismissal. However, if it is clear that he did not cheat, are we then going to kick him out for failure?
Professor Marks, if a midshipman doesn't show how he got the answer to a problem, the book says we have to give him a 0 for that problem.
Granted, Mr. Randall, but we must determine now what the book means by how. What is a demonstration of method? Is genius enough?
Well, so far, we've had no evidence of any genius. Bring Mr. Styron in, please.
Come over here, son. Well, son, have you worked the problems?
No, sir.
None of them?
None, sir.
Why not, son?
Well, I just can't seem to concentrate, sir. For one thing, when I was doing the exam, I wasn't thinking about anything else, but, well, now I just can't seem to concentrate. For one thing, why am I here, sir? Weren't my answers correct?
They were correct, sir.
Oh,
And now you're thinking of something else.
yes, sir.
What are you thinking of, son?
Bull, sir?
Bulls?
Yes, sir.
When you got in front of that bull, did you know that the flash bulb would stop him?
Well, I hoped it would, sir.
But you didn't know that it would.
No, sir. Phew, that was a big bull.
Mr. Styron, would you care to concentrate on a math problem now?
Yes, sir.
Then concentrate on these and solve them. Unless you can show the method of working these problems, it must be assumed that you cheated. And you know what that means.
Oh, yes, sir. Well, which one would you like me to work, sir?
I wonder if Mr. Styron would do number 3, Professor.
Son? Yes, sir. Number 3. One 0.042.
That is correct, sir. Gentlemen, don't you agree we must put a broad interpretation on the requirements for showing the method a midshipman uses to get the correct answers?
I feel that we're all satisfied, and I'd like to explain, Mr. Styron, that this embarrassment to you was only deemed necessary because of the unorthodox method you used.
Oh, that's all right, sir. Would you like me to work some more?
Dismissed. I think you better go concentrate on evening meal.
Yes, sir. Oh, evening meal. Punishment by flogging or by branding, marking, or tattooing on the body, or any other cruel or unusual treatment. Any member of the armed forces who before or in the presence of the enemy, 1, runs away, or 2, shamefully abandons,
Man, what I'd give for a
surrenders,
memory like that.
or delivers up any command, unit, place, or military property which it is his duty to defend. 3, through disobedience, neglect, or intentional misconduct, endangers the safety of any such unit, command, or place of military property. 4, casts away his arms and ammunition. Article 5. If it doesn't fit, don't force it. Get a bigger hammer.
Yes, this is Annapolis, the United States Naval Academy, proud of its dignity, its history, its traditions, but most of all, proud of its men. Next week, we will bring you another story of the men of Annapolis. Cy Styron was played by Jack Mullaney. Dusty Rhodes was played by Darrell Hickman. Judd Magruder was played by Judson Taylor.